Hello, reader. I'm Alix.
I'm Kelly.
And this is the LitJoy Podcast. This episode is brought to you by LitJoy Crate's holiday events. All through November, December, readers can shop new gifts for readers in their life or for yourself, and can shop special sales events. The holiday season is literally our favorite time of year at LitJoy. Myself and Kelly work with our team year-round to bring to life the perfect gifts for readers.
If you're a fan of Sarah J. Maas, we have lots of items available, but new this season is the Throne of Glass key. For classic book lovers, we've released the LitJoy edition of A Christmas Carol, and there's a darling door knocker ornament that can correlate with it. And perhaps the thing that we're most excited about is our paper art edition of Alice in Wonderland. There will be special discounts happening throughout the month of November and December, so please keep checking back in.
If you're a listener tuning in when it's not the holiday season, don't worry, we've got you covered. You can use the code podcast10, that's PODCAST10 at litjoycrate.com/podcast anytime for 10% off. So podcast10 is a 10% off discount that doesn't expire. And the way to navigate to our website is litjoycrate.com/podcast, litjoycrate.com/PODCAST. That's where you can find everything we talk about on the podcast as far as products and sales events go. And, of course, all of this info will be in the show notes.
All right, welcome back, reader. We are going to hop right into part 2 of this series, talking about authors, agents, publishers, what it's like working in the industry. And we're going to hop right back in. We've got lots more questions to cover.
Yeah, and these questions for you who are just popping into this episode are questions that were submitted by our customers or our community. And so these are questions from you. All right. Okay. So up first, is reading as fun as it used to be, Kelly, or does it feel like work sometimes?
Both.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be honest, when you start a company or a business off of something that you love or you have a passion for, you hear this all the time. Like, you better really love it because you might start to hate it when you turn it into a job. And I've never hated it. I've never gotten to that point.
No.
You know, how I'm like, I'm never going to hate reading and hate books, but there's definitely times where I literally didn't have time to read. Mm-hmm. Like we ran out of time running the company where we weren't able to read nearly as much as we wanted to. And thankfully we're not there right now. I have much more time to be able to literally read a book. I'm listening to audiobooks, but it's going to always feel like work to some degree, but it's like the best kind of work ever. It's like saying book club is your job. And I'm like, darn it, I have to read, but every now and then it just, with life and family, kids, like it can be a little bit of a crunch time of like, I got to get this book in, like I want to, but I have small time of being able to, but same for you?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've loved reading through every phase of LitJoy, and LitJoy, just like we always joke that it's our love child, because we both love books, and then we got together and we made a baby, and it is LitJoy. And with that, I'm just like, just as kids kind of go through phases, so does your company. It grows, it goes through growth spurts, and then it kind of plateaus, or it has like challenges and trials. And I really feel like books and the love of literature has just been such a solid foundation through all of that change. And we always go back to books to find comfort. Yep. Sometimes the genres change. Sometimes it's audiobooks. Sometimes it's books in hand. But I really feel like we all go back, or at least Kelly and I go back to just this deep love of literature. And that comes up, it's like a solace. And sometimes we can't stop thinking about it as a job when we're reading. Like, I'll be reading a great book and I'm like, we got to make this into a special edition.
Oh, yeah.
Or we got to see if we can work with the author, And so LitJoy is always present, and this love of books is kind of always present.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll ask you the next question.
Okay.
Have we ever, or would we ever, consider doing a collector's edition of Discovery of Witches?
We kind of talked about this in part 1, but I love that it got brought up again. First of all, I would love to do a special edition of Discovery of Witches. It's not something that we have a contract on. It's not in the pipeline. But I'm like, if I'm throwing out to the universe, I love that series so much. And I loved the TV series. I did. But I was probably more obsessed with the books.
it was a lot to put into a TV series, especially if you get to like, you know, the third book. Second book, I think has the most like history in it.
I loved it so much.
But it has everything in like, it has all the catnip, I like to say, in a book for me, and probably you too, because I just love like historical fiction. I love really learning about things, especially if it's based over in like London and UK.
Oh yeah.
It had witches, it had magic. So I was so delighted for that whole series. We read it just on our own time. Then we read it for my book club. And it comes up a lot as a book we would love to do a series for.
Or a special edition.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. It is on our list of pitches to send out. We kind of have like a running list of our wish list of pitches. And it is on the list. But it, as we've mentioned in our previous part of this 2-part episode, is just, it all depends on if the stars align, if it works for the author, if it works for the publisher, and where can we plug it into our calendar. Also, we're super flexible with our calendar when we approach publishers and authors to try and fit things in that work on their schedule. So we'll remove any barriers we can on our side to make it work, but the stars have to align. So send good energy out to the universe that it can work. Okay, what books have you tried to create special editions of or collector's editions of, but couldn't for whatever reason? I can tell you one. We were baby brand new in doing special editions, like had only worked with maybe one author. And I was like, I'm going to approach the Tolkien Trust. I'm going to ask them to do Lord of the Rings.
I was like, you go girl.
And I was like, I got this. You go girl. It was too early. I pulled the trigger on that one too early. Like I was so excited about the potential of doing Lord of the Rings. Yeah. And the Tolkien Trust was extremely kind. Like they were so kind to work with. They listened to my pitch. They approached the whole trust. Like I got really far in talking with them, but we had only done a couple of editions. And so we were very baby brand new in that space. And so I totally get why they were like, it's a no for now. I think they have to make sure that they protect their intellectual property and that these editions that are coming out are really special. And so that's one where I'm like, oh, I wanted to do that so bad, but I think I blew it a little bit on the timing. And it was a learning experience for me, which was great. But
I mean, the worst that can happen is they say no, right?
Yeah.
And I think that they even said it's a no for now. And so we're like, okay, we're going to hold you to that.
Yeah.
Because it's definitely on our wish list.
And
as
we
mentioned.
I can be a squeaky door, like a squeaky hinge. I'm like, hey, hey again, just want to email you.
That's exactly what we need, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it bothers them just to be reminded, once a year, right? Like they're like, oh yeah, because we need that as well. We need people to squeaky wheel us. And so I always appreciate that.
I know.
Okay. I'm trying to think. The only other one I can think about is Twilight.
I know. We talked about that before.
Yeah. We got to know again for now. There's just things going on in the background, I think. And I don't even know if we got a full reason other than just...
No, but you can bet that my team was like, no, but why? It's like,
well, yeah.
We're always seeking information. It's interesting because when you work with so many moving pieces, my team, I feel like at LitJoy, we would rather have full information. We're a super transparent company internally and with our partners. Like there's not a lot of things that I think we think if we're making a product we love that's beautiful and we believe in, we don't need to keep a ton of things tight to the vest.
No.
And so we're so collaborative when we work on these projects. And so when we have a partner or a vendor come back and be like, no, and we're not telling you why, we're always like, why? Like this information is so helpful to us. So what we try and do is we try and get a few more clarifying answers because we take it and we integrate it into how we work with them in the future. Like, it's really important to this publisher that they know the exact timing, or this publisher, it's a quantity thing. They need us to order more quantity. So let's come back to them when we think that this product, we can order more quantity. Or they're like, the author is really busy right now. We're like, okay, great. We'll reapproach them in 8 months when the author is not in a writing cave, and so.
Yeah, a lot of times they'll say no, and here's why, but they don't ever follow it up with anything else. And we're like, well, we can work with this.
Yeah.
Like we're flexible. Let's work around this. We're going to solve this is how we come at it.
There's been multiple special editions we've put out and collector's editions because the publishers come back and be like, that timing doesn't work. Sorry. And we're like, oh, well, that's an easy fix.
That's solvable.
And we push it back by 6 months and they're like, that's great. And the project comes to fruition. And actually we do have, we have a book coming out next year and the year after that was the exact scenario. So it's 2 books in a series, and they were like, the timing's off on this. And And we were like, that sounds like a yes, even though you said no. And we just moved around our schedule to accommodate. And and that's actually happens a lot. And publishing is so interesting. They really run on schedule. Meaning not that they're on time, because nobody is on time in production in the world right now, but
it's
a bit of a
loose.
mess. Yeah. But publishers, the release dates of books is so ingrained in the structure of the company. And so that's one thing that's fascinating is like release dates and getting specific release dates for specific books are paramount to almost all decisions with a book, which is fascinating to me because we're super flexible. Like we might have our biggest month of the year be April because we have a special edition that comes out. But like in publishing, their stuff all happens in very specific months of the year.
Yeah. All right, Alix, this is a fun question. What is the best and or worst parts of our jobs?
The best part of my job is that sometimes I just like will sit in my library and think about this. I have a little room in my house that I've converted into a library. And I look at all of our LitJoy Special Editions and I'm like, the best part of my job when it comes to production or product specifically is that I can read a book that I am obsessed with and that I was able to have this company that created something really magical from that book that I get to co-create a special edition with the author. Not me specifically, but our team. So when it comes to production, best part of my job. The best part of my job is our team. I just really love running a company. I'm like, that I get to be a CEO with you. I'm like, it's just so cool. I'm like, every day I wake up and I'm like, I work at an amazing company with amazing people. And I love it so much, even on the bad days. So yeah, that's the best parts. Now you tell me your best parts.
The best part is feeling like I have a little bit of control over creating something that I wish was a product so badly. You know, as a reader, so many times I'm like, oh, I wish this was a product. I wish this was real life in my hand, or I wish I could redo this book with this kind of a cover, or work with this author just so I can get to know them. Like, so the fact that I can have these wishes that come to fruition is incredible. It all started because I run a local book club and I wanted to bring books to life. Like that is literally how I ran the book club, and we talked about that. And I would, I throw these big book parties, authors can be invited, everything's themed around the book. And I was basically trying to curate what I do now, but in my book club where it wasn't really going where I wanted it, if that makes sense, because I couldn't physically create the product. Yeah. I did actually a couple times. It's a long story. I bound my own book twice actually, to create the book I wanted because it didn't exist. And that's when I finally was like, I should try to make money at doing whatever this thing is, because it wasn't a thing. And that's when we've talked about how we chatted about it and we started. But that's, to me, the thing that I love the most is like, now, if we read something that we love, we can make it happen. Like we can work with that author. We can make that product happen in that book to come to life. Like I can put it in my library, can have it in my hands. And that is so amazing to, in a sense, have that power.
Oh, yeah.
That ability, magic. Again, comes back to the team that we have. We have such an incredible team. And we just love working with everyone that we have in our company. We've said this also many times, but being co-CEOs is such a gift. It does not work for a lot of people. We found out it's like breathing for us. It doesn't work without the two of us. It's so natural. But talking to other people in the last couple of years, just in business, they're like, oh, how are you guys managing this? Like co-CEOs don't work. And we're like, but it does. Like, we've proven that. But yeah, it's such a relief that if I'm struggling or having a rough week, day, whatever it is, like I know Alix has my back. And like we can kind of give each other, we can kind of back and forth with our energy and where we're at for whatever's happening in our lives. And it's not like the entire pressure of the company is just on one shoulder. So we kind of burden that together. And so that's like the best part.
I know.
Is working together, our team.
I know.
Creating the magic.
We really like each other too. I'm like, we hang out a minimum of twice a week outside of work. We're not forced to. We just enjoy it. We're neighbors.
Yeah.
Like our kids are best friends, like cousins. We really created kind of this magical life, but it was through like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yes.
Like the startup of a company. I mean, Kelly and I both put in $500 and leveraged credit card debt and worked 80-hour weeks. That's how LitJoy started. And so there was no outside funding. I mean, we paid our first employees in like Starbucks and a prayer. I mean, it was super scrappy. We had 3-year-olds and 1-year-olds that were helping us kit boxes in our kitchen. And then during nap time, we would sprint through the rest of the kitting.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a startup through and through.
I'll never forget coming over to your house at like midnight working on crates.
Yeah.
There was fire involved at one point.
We did. We burned the edges of a map for aesthetic.
It looked awesome.
I'm like, seriously, bless all of our first subscribers. Thank you for coming on the journey with us. One of our very first subscribers is one of our directors now. I mean, it's just, we created something really special. And so even on the bad days, the worst parts of our job, like the good days totally make it worth it.
Which leans into what's the hardest part about it?
The hardest part about our job. I think for me, it's the things I can't control.
I know.
I'm not like, control is a motivator for me, but I don't feel like I'm a control freak. I relinquish a lot of decisions to our team. Like I trust our team very much so. And I don't have a lot of ego in the game. Like the success of LitJoy is so much more important to me than like how I feel about something.
Yeah.
But when I cannot control how the other stakeholders outside of LitJoy interact with our employees, that's where I feel that's the worst part of my job. Like, for example, I feel like someone can be really critical or harsh towards me or unkind towards me, and it kind of bounces off me. But if I see them doing that to someone that I love and care about, I just want to freaking kill them. I'm like, I want to lose it on them. I want to do everything I can to protect my people.
Yeah.
And there's often, that's my personality. It's a part of my struggle. But there's times where people outside of LitJoy will be unkind to my team members. And this comes in from all different areas.
Yeah.
And I cannot protect them.
Yeah.
And it is so infuriating to me that I've had to really work on that as I've grown as a CEO and as a leader. It's something that a challenge I've had to overcome and address. So that's probably the most frustrating part of my job, is that I have to let other people go through suffering and receive unfair treatment, because that is just a part of being human. And it makes me so angry. And so I have to go to therapy for that. That's what I do. Okay, Kelly, now let me ask you, what is the most difficult or your least favorite part of your job? Maybe we could do that. We could rephrase it.
I think part of it is similar to what you said. If there's something we can't control and we're at the whim of somebody else, for whatever reason, like, because we work with so many different, whether it's a publisher or even a vendor, and we have zero control over what's happening.
A shipping provider.
Shipping, customs even. Like, there's just things you don't know till you get in it. Those are the parts that are the least favorite for me, that are hard to deal with, because you're like, I literally can do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not how we function. Like, you and I are like,
we will find a way. We're such problem solvers naturally.
Yes. Yeah. So when we don't have the ability to even problem solve whatever the thing is, we're just like, fine, I will go to therapy for this.
Totally.
Because that's the frustration. And then it's hard because we have to usually, that affects our customers. A lot of it affects our customers. And that's the part I get super protective of course, for our team. Yeah. But like, when we have to deliver this information to our customers, it just breaks my heart. It makes me frustrated, because I know how frustrating it is as a customer to not get a product on time, or, something has to get moved, or anyways. So that's the part that is my least favorite, on top of probably just in general finances. That's like my least favorite thing to deal with.
Side note, Kelly and I hate dealing
I
with
know.
finances of a company.
Yeah.
Some people like thrive. I'm like, there's so many CFOs or CPAs who go out and start companies. Kelly and I got degrees in psychology,
Yeah.
women's studies, and art history. Like
Yep.
we see a balance sheet and we're like, we understand that this is bolded because it's important.
Please explain the rest.
I know. Like, thank goodness people out there love finances.
Yeah.
And that they help us. And we just hire them and we bring them in and we're all, we will build a culture of love and trust. Now you do the money thing.
Hey, it works,
It works
right?
for
Like
us.
somebody
It
gave us
does.
that advice. They're like, if you're not good at it, or if you just don't like it, hire it out. And it
As
was
soon as you can.
as soon as you can. And we were like, thank you.
We're like, oh my gosh, thank you.
It was like somehow permission, and because we would bootstrap everything, and we were just
yeah.
we're like, we got to do it. We got
the
to do
next thing we handed off was fulfillment.
it immediately.
But that was because the team was like, stop doing fulfillment.
We were not great at that. We kept missing things and doubling up on other things,
Yes.
and we are like, wait, why are these not?
I know. And we're such advocates. We're such advocates for our customers. Like, we love our customers so much that we're like, we want it to be this perfect, beautiful experience. And then we were fulfilling and we're like, we are letting ourselves down. But you have to do it in the beginning.
You do.
And we really know how to do almost everyone's job from like a scrappy level,
Yeah.
because we've done it all. But also now we just hire specialists like
We
for
were
certain
so much
things
better at it.
that are so much better. Like our finance team's so much better. There's so I mean, every department that we've hired people that really specialize in that. They're brilliant.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
our IT department, I'm all, tell it to me like I'm 10, and then they tell me and I'm all, just like Michael, I'm all, okay, tell it to me like I'm 5. And they're great. We're like, we will keep paying you as much as possible. You just keep doing that thing.
Yes. I
It's
will
true.
say the last thing, because I forgot about this. The other thing I really love about our job is all the different community things that we get to be a part of as well, which, side note, is kind of why we want to do this podcast.
Yes.
We wanted to get more involved in having a say in what we're doing and what we're reading and what we want to be doing, in the future with other books and getting to work with authors. And I just love being able to see readers in person when we congregate.
When we come together.
We used to do BookCon and BEA up until COVID when they stopped doing it. And I loved it because reading is such a solitary experience. And, unless you like have a book club, like in person, it's rare to really get together and talk about books and be around other readers in that sense. And it was like our book mecca, like,
oh yeah.
that was so fun.
Well, also like the purpose of LitJoy, like our official purpose, is to cultivate connection and joy through stories. And so every product we make, every relationship we foster, every customer we talk to, it's filtered through, are we creating connection and joy through stories? And that's always been why we've started the company. And that's what we come back to if ever we feel like we're floundering or we need to make a decision. We come back to that, and are we holding ourselves accountable for that purpose? And so that is a really fun thing that comes with running your own startup company is we create connection and joy through stories with other companies, with authors, with our readers, with, and this podcast is just another way to do that, to create connection. And so I feel really lucky that we're in a position where we could be doing this. I don't think Kelly and I ever thought we'd be doing something like a podcast when we started a book subscription box. I mean, we were, like we mentioned, at one point in time at 2 a.m, burning the edges of a piece of paper to make it look like a vintage map. And that was our job. We probably shouldn't have been doing it. I bet my neighbors were like, what the hell?
Just a seance. Don't worry about it.
We're out there like saging maps. It's fine. But it's cool that we get to do this now. And I'm not missing a moment of it. Like I'm living so in the moment with it right now, because this is the first time Kelly and I have really been able to just be CEOs and not CEOs/6 other things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Thank you, team.
Thank you. I know. We love them. Okay. So the next question is, why can we not release information before a certain date on upcoming special editions? I was
like, why don't you take
I was
this
like,
one?
son of a bee. It's mine too. Okay. So I've mentioned this a little bit, but publishers actually put restrictions on when we can announce things sometimes. Sometimes publishers, because it's of the book or the author or the timing of year, like they don't care. And they're like, you can announce whenever you need to. And that's how some of our projects are. And we just announce them when we have space in our marketing calendar and we feel like it's soon enough to hype it, but not like so late that customers won't be able to save for it, but not too early that they'll forget it's happening. So there is kind of this like chemistry, this balance, if we have control over it.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, though, publishers or authors will tell us that this is the date you're allowed to announce it. And that's because of their schedules.
Yeah.
That's because of the publication schedules and the author schedules. So, for example, if we're working with an author and they have a new edition or they have a brand new release coming out, publishers will ask us to market ours after that or way in front of it so that the author's marketing power is not put towards a project that's not the publisher's project, or so that we get the marketing of the author that the author wants to give us. So oftentimes the author's like, I have a book coming out that month and I really want to give your special edition a lot of attention on my social media. And can we push back the announcement date? So when we do these projects, it's not just our audience, it's not just our readers or our community that is looking for those announcements. It's also the author's community, and the author's community is really excited about these special editions, and the author wants to give it the hype. And so that's oftentimes why we don't announce them until a certain date. And we don't obviously have control over like an author's publication schedule, nor do I want control over that. I'm like, I don't think so. I like my job. I don't want to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces on that one.
Yeah.
And we just negotiate for what we feel like is the best time to announce it. But obviously we try and be really accommodating to the author and their schedule.
Yeah.
That's always the goal, is like, how do we make this as smooth as possible?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. I'll lead
Yeah.
into the next question then.
I love this.
Okay. How much say does the author versus the publisher have when publishing a book? And I'm trying to decide this question, is it just in general, do we think? Or is this like specifically with LitJoy?
Let's do in general what we know, and then with LitJoy.
Yeah.
Okay. So in general, what I know with working with the publishers and the authors is it kind of depends on the author and the publisher and the chemistry between them. So some publishers are much more open to author feedback on like cover art and design. Some publishers are very particular. Their marketing, their cover marketing department, whatever that's called, they know what sells in certain bookstores, like what will sell in airports, what will sell on the shelves of like Barnes and Noble.
By genre?
Yeah, what will sell on Amazon. They break it down by genre. They do market research. Like there's a science to the covers and what's trending and what's working. And they will kind of just tell the author like, no, this is what's actually going to sell to people who might not know who your name is, right? Then there's also this interesting relationship between publishers and authors where if the author's more prominent in the publishing house and a New York Times bestseller over and over and over again and more of a house name, they will be able to use that as kind of not leverage, but essentially there's a little bit more power behind their ideas. And so they get more of a say. And then literary agents sometimes will go to bat for the authors and be like, this doesn't work for this cover, and try and push for their author, because that's the agent's job, is to really be an advocate for their client, their author. So I think it's just like there's no straight answer in how we create something special. I think that it's the same with publishing houses and with authors. There's like this kind of like, do the stars align that they're able to have more of a say? And so we've worked with some authors who are like really bummed about their mass market covers, and some who are like obsessed with their mass market covers. And it kind of just depends on the individual people and how it all shakes out. So
especially a lot of our backlist titles that have been out for a long time, if we approach them, they're like, yes.
They're like, finally, because what was trendy 15 years ago, like, isn't working. Or it didn't work for them then, but it like doesn't work now for the market because.
Or it just needs an
refresh.
an update.
It just needs an update. Like anything that happened 15 years ago in visual branding is kind of like, oh, you can tell it's a little dated. And so they're really excited about it.
Yeah. And I feel like we've kind of talked about, when an author works with LitJoy. In the control they have there. And it's very much just a collaborative experience. Like, we're never going to steamroll what an author wants. If they have a really strong vision of what they'd love to see, we always make it happen. Like, we want to, like, that's the point. We want them to be proud of it. We want to make their dreams come true and make this incredible new edition. And so that really just comes down to our team and the author, and sometimes the agent, just working together to create what we think is going to be best. And there's no ego in it in that sense. Like, it really works wonderful that way.
Yeah. And if ever there's like a reason we can't make it exactly how the author envisions, it's usually limitations with like deadlines, production limitations, like what's even possible. And the artist, like what the artist's range. And so every now and then we'll kind of make a compromise on like an element of a cover, but authors always have this final stamp of approval so it can go out.
Yeah. All right. Next question. If I, being a listener, wanted to be published, Alix, what do I do next?
Oh my
do you have
gosh.
answers for this?
Just because I'm such a successful published author?
Right?
Yes. No. Okay. We actually get asked that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, we get asked writing tips and how to connect with publishers a lot. I think a lot of people who are readers also are writers in this community. I think I wrote down a few bullet points on this one because I think it's important to kind of give people something. I didn't want the listener to feel like they were just left hanging.
Yeah.
But if you're hoping to become a writer, or you're a writer and you want to get in contact with publishers, I would recommend that you find a writing group to support you on your journey. There are writing clubs in every state in America. Like, there are so many writers out there. I would find a community and surround yourself with people who are writing, and they will also be thinking about the same things as you, as far as like, how do I find an agent? How do I query to agents? How do I find an editor? How do I get in touch with publishers? And so that community, those are people who are already in that world, who are interested in it. Join those clubs, join those writing groups. I would also recommend going to writing conferences. Storymakers is a local Utah one that I've been to 3 or 4 times. I love Storymakers. It's a great conference. It's a great way for you to improve your writing, to get writing recommendations, to get edits on your writing, and also to meet literary agents. So lots of writing conferences.
Like, I'll hop in and add one, which is, I think everyone should be in a book club. I'm always going to promote book clubs because we have several authors and budding authors in our book club, my local one, because it's just, you want to stay immersed, I think, in what you're interested in, what you want to be doing, and just being surrounded by other readers, constantly being pushed to read different types of books and genres. I think it can only ever help. You know, if you want to be a writer, it's like the advice you hear all the time is you got to read more.
Yep.
And then just keep writing.
That's the first piece of advice I think a lot of authors will give, and literary agents, is like, how much are you reading? Are you reading enough? Because as you start to learn writing technique, you recognize it in the works of others, and it makes you a better editor of your work and a better writer. I've been in a writing group for like 8 years. On and off, I've been writing just because LitJoy has taken up so much of my creative energy, which I don't regret it for 1 second. But my writing group is just such an incredible resource to me. And half of them are in my book club. Well, your book club. President Kelly of the book
Presidente.
club. El Presidente. That was pretty funny when you said that at book club. I laughed. Thanks. I was like, nobody else laughed as hard as I did. I was like, that was a good one. I'm like Kelly's #1 cheerleader at book club too, because she's the president of the book club. That's how we met. And so I'm always like, oh, hail Kelly, the president.
This awkward thing that happened. And I'm like, I guess I'm a president of this. Like,
I mean, that's kind of how we became CEOs. Everyone's like, you're the CEO. Now write a standard operating procedure. It's fine. No, I think reading is like the first recommendation we'd have is be a voracious reader, consume lots of stories. Yeah. Okay. And then, check out this one we wrote down. Check out your local bookstores.
Yes.
Like the mom and pop local bookstores are such a great place to start for writing communities, book clubs, just anything, book signings to meet people. Yes. Like to find your people out in the wild. Go to the book club or bookstores.
The bookstores. We have one here local that's just darling, King's English.
Yeah.
Utah's quite a hub actually.
Yeah,
for
there's
authors,
the Poppy bookstore down in Spanish Fork too.
Poppy?
It's like Poppy. Yeah, it's so cute. It's like a little old house. So is King's English though. Yeah, sorry, keep going.
In Park City, Dolly's, right?
Yes.
So and that's something that we personally love to do anytime we travel. We're like, we got to find the local mom and pop book shop. And that's just because we love to collect and kind of see what they're like in different states, different countries.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really just the best advice we have for people wanting to be authors or be published is like, you just got to be completely in it.
Like immerse yourself. And opportunities will be presented too. Like, I think that's what we kind of do is we try and immerse ourselves and put ourselves in positions for we create opportunities for ourselves by just going and putting ourselves out there. All right. Thank you, reader.
Thank you so much.
All right, reader. Thank you for listening to the LitJoy podcast. Make sure to rate and review us.
And like a good book, don't forget to recommend us to your friends.